Hello everyone, this is week 13. Our big focus for the week is comprehension. And before I dive into the content, I just wanted to make sure you knew what to expect as far as upcoming assignments and what assessments you'll be giving with your student. There are a few readings this week. First, in Lipson and Wixon, Chapter 8, I want you to read the section on evaluating comprehension, which is pages 328 to 356. It's in the classroom-based assessment chapter, so it will give you a lot of good ideas for informal assessments, since this week you're going to have more decision-making power in selecting and creating possibly the assessments you are going to give your student. Next, you're going to read about the core maze assessment for comprehension, and that's pages 150 to 180. I have two articles for you to read. The first comes from the reading teacher, and it's on assessing comprehension. The second one also comes from the reading teacher, and it is on refining comprehension assessment. And I have a third one, which is optional, and I put the internet link up on Titanium, but you might not be able to access it. You may actually have to go to the Cal State Fullerton online library in order to access it. So let me show you how to do that now. All right, so here we are just at fullerton.edu, the Cal State Fullerton homepage. Over here you see library, and they've actually recently changed how this looks. But if you want to go to articles, there are literally hundreds, thousands, millions, squillions of articles at your fingertips. You're going to want to change this to education, and then you're going to want to go ahead and put in the title of that article and do a search. You may want to actually change it to the title. I just put in the title of the article, and in a few seconds or minutes it will actually come up, and here is that optional article, Michael Presley 97, an oldie but a goodie. It goes through kind of the historical perspective of comprehension, which is pretty interesting maybe. It also might be helpful if you are someone who might be doing the final comprehensive exam. All right, let me switch back over to my PowerPoint. All right, here we are. So that is how you access the online article database, in case you haven't ever done that before. Participation activity this week. So I have some sample artifacts posted for you. There are actually comprehension questions from the QRI-5 for 2 students. So I'd like you to look at them and first consider what you notice about how the assessment was administered. Second, what are the first student's strengths and weaknesses in the area of comprehension? The first student's name is Nikita. She's in grade 4 and was given QRI level 5. Next, I'd like you to look at the second student's strengths and weaknesses in regard to comprehension. His name is Ryan. He's also in 4th grade, and he was given QRI level 4. Lastly, think about how would you design instruction to meet the needs of these students. So I would like you to dig a little deeper than analyzing the number of implicit versus explicit, because that's already pretty straightforward and on the assessment for you. But actually think a little bit more about the question type and what the question is requiring this student to do. And this is due May 1st, no late submissions with participation activities. What else is due this week? Well, we have Artifact and Reflection 3B, which covers comprehension. We have video number 5 due on task stream. Any assessment you administer is fair game, so feel free, unless it is the QRI you submitted last week. You may not submit the same video twice. And then you have the participation activity that I just described. There's my disclaimer about late assignments. Please get it in on the deadline of May 1st. All right, session 3B, what is expected as far as assessments go? Well, you need to give 3 comprehension assessments. One of them has to be the core reading maze, which I'll talk about in a second. And then you are selecting 2 additional comprehension assessments. Um, anything of your choosing. So I did put a folder up on Titanium that has some comprehension resources for you, but please don't blindly select one of those assessments just because your course instructor put it on Titanium. Go back to your reflection from last week and really look at how your student did on the comprehension portion of the QRI. Do they struggle with retell and basic summarizing? Is there a type of comprehension question that you need to really look at more deeply? Really think about what kind of assessment you want to give as a follow-up from last week's session. So when we started out this course, I really gave you a lot of the assessments. I told you which ones to give, I showed you how to give them, I told you how to score them, but now we're starting to do the gradual increase of responsibility where I am putting more of the decision making onto you to select those assessments and determine how you're going to administer and score them and what you're going to look at. So options for this, you will need to submit video. You could do another QRI or finish up one if you didn't get them all done last time. You could give another IRI or informal reading inventory. I'll show you some options in a second and see how those results compare. You could make a close. I put directions for compiling a close up on Titanium, or you could give an informal assessment where they're just reading, stopping at different points and discussing what they're thinking about at that time. So let's talk a little bit more about the potential assessments. So 3 are required, 1 has to be the core reading maze, the second one is up to you, the third one is up to you. So core reading maze is on page 150 of your core book. It measures comprehension of text read silently. So this time the student is reading silently. It is for grades 2 through 10. The student has 3 minutes to complete the assessment. There is a teaching passage provided which you can use so that way the student knows what to do. There's also a script you should be following on page 151. It's pretty straightforward in how you just count the number of words correctly and look at the breakdown. You could go lower or higher if you'd like to really find out what level they hit strategic at. So that's the core reading maze. Everyone will be giving that one. Next, as far as the QRI goes, if you need to give a fourth from session 2, you can do that. You could try giving them one silently if you didn't do that last time. You could try giving one on a less familiar topic and see how they do with comprehending a text that they have less schema and background on. Or you could try using one of those alternative formats of testing, like using the lookbacks or the think alouds. Although you really should be using lookbacks anytime you administer the assessment because it makes the comprehension score more reliable. More assessment options. So again, you could do a different informal reading inventory. Teachers College has their reading and writing project, and they have reading assessments here. We actually use these at my school. So they have levels A through K, they have levels L through Z. And I have a chart coming up in a second to show you what level to do. But basically, here's where you can, we'll go L through Z, here's where you can get all of the assessment materials. This actually is probably going to take a little bit, but it has, I'm going to stop that. It has a running record form as well as already comprehension questions that are already written. Levels A through K require, oh, there we go. So let's take a look at, let's say level O. So here's Mountain Bike Mania. Here's the running record form that you can use. Here are the sample responses to the comprehension questions. And then here is the student text. So the student would actually read this. You would score it using the running record form, and then you would record how they do on the running record and then use the sample questions to score those. So this is an awesome free resource thanks to Teachers College Reading and Writing Project. You can give that. Also, Reading A to Z has benchmark assessments. If you have if you've subscribed to that website, they have benchmark assessments. Your school might have the DRA or Developmental Reading Assessment. You could use that. Your school might have another resource or informal reading inventory you use. You could use that. Or on page 390, there are other examples of informal reading inventories. Next, you could create your own close by taking 300 words of a text at the student's independent or instructional level. You keep the first sentence intact, but then after that, you delete every fifth word up to 50 words. You number the blanks 1 through 50, and you count the words filled in correctly, no synonyms. You multiply that by 2, and a score of 60% better is adequate. So that would be another assessment you could try. If you're wondering what level of Reading A to Z assessment to give and how it correlates to Faunus and Pinnell or the DRA, here's a nice chart I've used in the past. Even more assessment options, you could utilize the comprehension assessment in the reading teacher article. You could have the child read a text and do a retell using the procedures on page 394 or any retelling rubric you find or create. You could do, as suggested prior, the stopping points where you have them explain their thinking at a certain point. You can see page 344. You could have the student write a retelling or a summary or create some form of text map. Or you could create your own questions for a text, see page 341. So again, lots and lots of options, but really think strategically about what's going to give you the most information about your student. There is also at least one assessment I put on Titanium, and it's the Metacognition Index from Manzo and Manzo. All right, session 4B, just to give you a heads up, is focused on spelling, writing, and word recognition. There's no video due, as these are all assessments you've given before. You will do words their way. You will collect a writing sample based on a writing prompt and then score it however you'd like. And then you will do some form of word recognition assessment, either structural analysis, if they can decode up to the multisyllabic word level, or the core phonics would be good if they cannot decode up to the multi-syllable level. All right, I'm sure you're asking, are we there yet? Are we done with this course? How many more weeks do we have? And honestly, you can count the number of weeks left on one hand and the number of assignments left on two. So this week you have a reflection, a video, and a participation activity, but this is the last week that you will have 3 things due. Next week, week 14, due on May 8th, you have a reflection and a participation activity, but no video. Week 15, the week after, due on May 15th, you have a reflection and a video, but no participation activity, and that will conclude your work with your student. Then week 16, May 22nd, is the due date for your second case study report. Please don't wait until week 16 to work on this. You should know what to expect as far as that assignment goes, especially because I'll be grading them soon and getting you the feedback. Start to work on it now so that you have it done, each piece each week as you're doing it with your student. You will also have a participation activity, which is a culminating feedback survey for me on Zoomerang. And then lastly, finals week. Your online final must be completed by midnight on May 24th. So that's what's coming up. We are not there yet, but we are definitely gaining on it. Next week, I will have your final exam study guide for you to list all the terms to know and the assessments to know, so look forward to that. All right, I'm going to upload this and see you for part 2 shortly.